So have you ever thought about, did you waste your career? Did you waste all of the education that you have because you want to transition to do something else, but you don't want to forget about all those years of experience? Now, I'm not saying to leave your job. I'm not saying to start a business, but I do believe that everyone has these moments where you want to shift, but you're holding on because you're like, but I put so much time and effort over here. I don't know if I should go over here. So if that's you, stay tuned for this video. All right, hi everyone. So this will be a different setup and transparent moment at the time of this recording. It is the 11th death anniversary of my mother passing, and we're going to see her at the site today, along with my grandfather, because he passed 3 weeks before her in the same year. And I was going to record yesterday, and I had every intention to record, but a lot of things were happening yesterday, and it turned out to be very emotional. And it wasn't about my mom because I've worked through some things, but maybe subconsciously, with everything that was going on, I probably was like, man, I wish I had my mom here. So I have to do this video in a different style, in a different format, so I can get through it. And I hope you enjoy. So, how did we get here? For many of us, we had these long-term goals of going to college, getting a job, or starting a business. Believe it or not, there are quite a few people who have grown up being groomed to inherit the family business, and they don't even want it. I believe so many people glamorize entrepreneurship without counting the cost. In other cases, we want what we don't have. To be honest, I had more time and freedom as a college professor than I had when I first started my business officially. I'll admit that this was my own doing, but we won't get into that for this video or this message right here. I want to talk to the people who have spent their lives going after one goal, whether for themselves or being voluntold by family members. In most cases, those goals were 10, 15 to 20 years out. There was a lot of planning, trial and error, and learning, whether in college or through some sort of apprenticeship or maybe on your own. You put in a lot of time, effort, and maybe tears, but you finally did it. You reached your personal mountaintop. Things are going well for a few years and probably going well for a decade or two. Then you realize that you're now going through the motions, or you feel like there is more to do and the job isn't quite doing it for you anymore. Or you get this feeling of not wanting to do this kind of work anymore. Sometimes people think you have to wait until you're unhappy at work to want to change. I think it's more of not feeling like you matter anymore or have the impact that you once had. So here are my lessons learned. One, never stop dreaming. I know many of us like these yearly goals, but in reality, we weren't trained to think that way. Think about it. When you started kindergarten or sooner, the goal was to graduate high school, which was 12 to 13 years. And then when you got to high school, the goal was probably to graduate college, which was another 4 to 5 years out. Even if you went straight into the workforce, the goal was probably some sort of high level management position, which could have taken 5 to 10 years. Even if you grew up with an entrepreneurial family, they had you working in the store or coming to the office probably every summer and told you this will all be yours one day. All of these have long term visions that we work towards. However, as we entered into adulthood, many of us have stifled our creativity and vision by only focusing on 1 to 3 years out. Now, there is nothing wrong with this overall, but I believe this can cause burnout. For example, I always had a long term vision for myself as it related to life and career. However, I did not transfer those skills when I started my business. Honestly, I allowed myself to get derailed and started to focus on these short term goals that were not in alignment to my big vision. Now that I have reassessed and realigned to who I am, I now have another 10 to 15-year target to aim for. I will break this down yearly, quarterly, weekly, and daily, but I can definitely feel the difference in my body knowing that I have a bigger vision again. You may have been successful in what you're doing now, but go ahead and challenge yourself to dream about your next 10, 15, or 20 years. Nothing has to be set in stone, but you want to start activating your brain and your heart cells to remind yourself of what it feels like to have something to stretch for. 2, start thinking about your skills beyond what you know. We are in the information and advice age, especially those of us with all this traditional education and life experiences. I truly believe that we are born with everything we need, but we don't always tap into it. It's not too late to tune into your born brilliance and allow that to enhance your learned brilliance. I don't care that what people say about college and how it's a waste of time, but I will say I would present this option differently to the younger generation. But for those of us who have this training, don't discount it. You learned so much during that time that was beyond the scope of just taking classes. Think about the other classes that were not necessarily in your major and the impact that it had on you. What about those clubs or organizations you joined? Why were you a part of them in the first place? Think about what you're doing now. What skills are you taking for granted that someone else would love to have or wish that it came just as easily for them? Here's another example. I am really good at creating curriculum, teaching, and creating online platforms. However, I was in my head when I thought about having a coaching and consulting business, and I invested a lot of money and time seeking knowledge from people about something I was already an expert in. While I learned a lot from my coaches and about the business of coaching and consulting, I approached them from a disempowered space instead of having confidence in myself and certainty, if you want to add that to the mix. I may not have understood funnels or marketing or the latest social media strategy, but I knew how to build courses. I knew how to teach for mastery. I knew how to ask powerful questions, and I know how to create pathways to get results. I had been doing that for at least 15 years prior to being introduced to the world of coaching. So for you, I want you to remember that you are not a blank slate. And it is important that you never show up to a coach or a consultant empty-handed or empty-minded. Number 3, have the courage to be honest with yourself. We all have this inner knowing when it's time to make a shift or transition into something else. However, it can be challenging to move because we've invested so much into the person we are now. But think about this. If you weren't meant to stay where you are, you wouldn't have this inner tug to change. I know you've seen a post, watched a video, or heard something from someone, or perhaps you read a line in the book that stirred up something in your belly. You tried to ignore it, but it feels like the universe is throwing you hints left and right for you to pay attention. And when you don't listen, you'll notice that you start changing. Maybe you start to get easily frustrated. You're irritated more often, or maybe you start quiet quitting at work. Remember that trend from a few years ago? Or perhaps you start pulling back from your family business. Let me save you some trouble and some time. This is the time for you to start sitting with yourself quietly or meditating to listen to your internal voice, your intuition, your gut. I would suggest you start with the process on your own before hiring a coach or a strategist. I know I am a coach and I'm telling you to do some work before you hire me or someone like me. You are not going to them to give you any answers. They are there to support and guide you, and at times strongly suggest that you do something. However, they aren't inside of you. It's important that you have a starting point, an anchor, so you know when you are in or out of alignment. Here's another example. Not too long ago, I had to say to myself out loud that I don't want to teach mathematics anymore, especially not in the traditional sense. I had this epiphany while still working as a college professor, but I was afraid to let it go. One, I didn't want to feel like I wasted all of my time in school obtaining my degrees or gaining the valuable work experience I had accumulated over the years. 2, I didn't want to disappoint my grandmother, who was so proud that I was working in the field for my degree and that I had great benefits. Get that good job and benefits. Number 3, I didn't want people to look at me crazy for pursuing something that could be a little woo-woo, like life coaching, and leaving something solid, like teaching mathematics or anything in the education profession. And 4, I didn't want to let go of the status of being a doctor of mathematics, a Black woman in a STEM field, or a college professor, or any other status that came along with my professional life. So lesson 4 of what I learned and what I want to share with you: protect your new or updated vision. You've worked so hard to finally admit to yourself that you want something different. You're working through your internal conflict and possibly identity crisis. The last thing you need is to engage in battle with external factors. Whether your career or business path was your idea or not, if you've been successful in this area, I'm sure you had a vision or idea or dream to be where you are, and you made it no matter what. People may have tried to tell you to quit, to find something else, or if you failed a few times, just to give it up. Or perhaps they've seen you work so hard and they're like, oh, just relax, take some time off. Whatever was going on, you stuck to your plan and you did whatever you needed to do to succeed. I think now we're so easily distracted because we don't have another long-term goal or vision that we're working towards that gives us purpose or reason to persevere. Look over your life in different areas and see what you have protected and been non-negotiable about, and compare to areas where you haven't given much thought or intentionality. I read somewhere that people spend more time shopping for a car than they do for a partner in life. It may not be you, but I wanted to give you an illustration of what this looks like. We can be so intentional and determined and non-negotiable about a car, but what about other areas of our lives? Here's another example, and I love being transparent with you all. I know that I am meant to be a life coach in this season. First, I had to get comfortable saying that because this is one of the coaching niches that can still be up in the air. Then I had to get comfortable saying that I don't want to teach mathematics anymore. And just as I was doing that, I was recruited by a university to teach math. And while it was tempting to have a quote unquote stable income and benefits, and I use that term loosely, that doesn't align to my updated vision. My grandmother casually mentions other jobs and tutoring to me, and I understand why. I used to get defensive before and try to explain what I'm doing in this season. Then I had to remember that this is my vision, not hers. She didn't understand why I wanted to quit my career to pursue my doctorate degree full time, but she got on board because I was all in. The same is true for this season. Even if she isn't on board, I still have to be all in. It is still my job to protect my seed and nurture it. No one is responsible but me. I am the master gardener. Lesson number 5, build a dream fund. There are some people who are so attuned to their vibration that they can burn the ship and not worry where the money or other resources come from. They go full steam ahead. And then there are some of us who, just need to step out, have a little cushion, have just a little safety net. We want to keep a little pathway to the bridge. But honestly, I believe we can all get to the point where we are those people that just go forward without worrying about money. And that does take some work, and it could take a little longer for some people than others, but it's okay. I had a coach who would always talk about buying her freedom by saving a portion of her check every pay period. In 3 years, she had enough to pursue her speaking career full time, and now she's the best speaker in the world, in my opinion. However, it wasn't until I was deep into my own personal development that I realized that she was using money from smaller speaking engagements and other resources before she left her job. I was making money as a consultant on the side while I was a college professor, but I also had so much other stuff to deal with that I didn't think about the possibility of keep going along this pathway to build up an audience, to build my brand, and to do all the things to prepare me for this life coaching business. But I was so focused on, let me just do this right here so I can quit my job. That is not the energy to have. So learn from me. Now, there are 2 ways to get into this vibration. There's a practical way of doing things, and then there's an energetic way of doing things. The practical way is finding a way to generate extra income while you're doing your main thing and save it so you will have a cushion to pursue your next vision without worry. It is challenging to be creative when you're focused on surviving. You can be a consultant, do something similar to what you are doing now by teaching other people, or doing something completely different. Remember, the goal is just to build a fund or your launch pad into your next season. Now, the energetic way, which I learned from my money mindset coach, is by raising your vibration or getting into alignment through universal laws, such as the law of attraction. I know it sounds woo-woo, but it's also spiritual for those of you who have a faith background or understand a higher power. The short version is believing that you can call in any amount of money you desire as long as you truly believe you can have it, and to truly be open to how it will flow in. One way to help you understand this is that if you look at the money that you're bringing in now, it is a direct correlation to what you believe you deserve, even if it's subconsciously. The cool thing is that the faster you clear this up, or the faster you clear the resistance and get aligned to the energetic frequency, which is the feeling, the faster the money and other resources will come. So there you have it. There is nothing wasted. There was a reason we all took the path we traveled, and we may never know all the why. However, there are two important things to remember as we close. Life happens through us so we can be of service to others. We have to stop being so attached to outcomes and don't take life so personally. And two, we literally can't mess up our lives. We're not that powerful. Sure, we can derail our lives, but every day we get to literally start over. And that's because there is a power in us that is greater. Okay, I'm back. So let me know which lesson resonated with you the most, or what tip resonated with you the most, and leave that comment down below. And if you have your own lesson learned because you had a similar path or you have a similar experience, let me know that down below, because we learn from each other as well. Remember to subscribe to this channel, watch videos, and share, because don't hoard all of this for yourself. Thank you so much for listening and learning with me. Remember, the world needs you to be well, be empowered, be bold, and be brilliant. Until next time, bye.